Hey, and welcome back to my channel, The Road to the Great Canadian Open. Actually, that's the series of videos I'm doing right now. Now, it's mainly a painting series, as you follow me as I paint 1 hour a day to getting my Brotherhood Without Banners army done for January. But I'm on vacation right now, so I won't be painting. Instead, I thought to keep the channel going as I'm away, I'd do some other content. Yesterday, I did a tier list on the base deck for the Brotherhood Without Banners. This is only after a few games of practice, and this was months ago when the faction first came out. These are my initial thoughts on how strong the base deck is, and I thought to follow up, it'd be cool to look at the commanders now instead. Now, interestingly, I'm going to be using Barrick and Lady Caitlin in my actual tournament list. But when the faction first came out, I actually used mostly Thoros of Myr and Lady Caitlin. So it's been a while again. So again, I'm not sure if these are accurate in the current meta. I haven't played a ton with these the faction against lots of variety yet. I haven't really watched other players either, so I really don't know what's popular out there right now. I haven't looked at lists. So here are just my initial thoughts. If you disagree or have something to add, do comment below. Do let me know what you think, and I'd love to interact with you. So since I'm using Beric Dondarrion, he's kind of the poster boy of the faction, why don't we start with him and take a look at his cards. Now, the context of whether or not these cards are good is very specific. It has to do with, in my opening hand, if I get these cards, will I keep them past round one? And someone, commented, I think, on my Facebook feed or something like that, about how even the cards are bad, you can always use them to fuel Lady Ravella, the NCU. I have to double check, but I believe she lets you discard a card to restore a couple of wounds. And that is good, but I would still rather dig for an actual good card. Now, the interesting thing, too, is the play pattern in Song is if you go first during round one, typically you take the envelope first, you go up to 5 cards, and if you don't go first, then you probably take the envelope round 2, and then you go up to 5 cards either way. So really, thinking about Ravella, right? If I go second, and my opponent takes the envelope, am I going to keep crappy cards to use them for Ravella? I would say no, right? Now, again, there's context involved. If your opponent is running Awful Yarwick, the NCU who shoots you from afar, maybe you would. If you took some crown damage, maybe you'd use a card to heal instead of doing nothing. If your opponent has a Melisandre, and she can somehow get in range, then maybe you would save the cards right away to heal. But I'm just talking about a general, normal where you don't get to interact with each other. What would you do normally, right? So again, context matters. This is not a hard and fast rule. You got to use your brain, adapt to the situation. But yeah, so I think if you were to go second and you don't get the envelope and you only have 3 cards in your hand, are these cards good enough to keep into round 2? That's the context, right? Or should you discard them and dig for more cards? Some cards, even though you may not even use them right away round 2, I feel like you want to keep, but we'll discuss them in due time. So the other thing I want to talk about too is you have to take these cards in the context of the commander, and like what would you put your commander in? So I'll do my best to sort of imagine how good these cards could be. So the first card we're going to talk about is Assault Orders. Now, Assault Orders, of course, is a classic card found in many decks. Notably, the Stark deck has it in their base deck as well. And what it does is, if you're not sure, when a friendly NCU claims a zone, replace the zone's effect with one friendly combat, you can make a melee attack using the lowest attack dice. Or if it's Barrick's unit, you can do a charge instead. Now, the charge is very, very strong. To turn an NCU activation on the tactics board into a charge, where you might have Barrick in a unit like Kingsman, for example, is very, very strong, even on those attack dice. Let me double check real quick. How many dice do they throw? I want to say they throw 5, but let's find out real quick. I think it might be 765. They might degrade very, very slowly. Kingsman. Oh Lord, loading so slow here. Their attack profile is 765. So even 5 dice with rerolls and sundering and critical blow sounds quite good. Now, it's not always crit blow. You only get crit blow if your opponent does not control the crown. But the potential there is still very high. So I think that is very strong. As an attack, is it good? It could be good elsewhere. It could be good if you have your Sworn Knights in combat. If that attack kills a rank, again, Sworn Knights might have rerolls as well. that can do some more healing, so that's also added value. So I think Assault Orders is one of those cards that's so good. You can also set it up to play round 2, honestly. Like, if you have it round 1, you probably won't use it round 1 because you're too far away. But I can easily see a situation where you maneuver something into range and Assault Orders. It happens all the time with Gregor the Mountain for Lannisters. So I'm going to say Assault Orders is a keep for sure in your hand past round 1 for now. All right, let's take a look at Barrack's second card, 6 times too many. So as I recall, this card is kind of a keep yourself alive card. So when a friendly infantry unit would be destroyed by melee attack, the unit's not destroyed, but remains in play with 1 wound. Attach this card to the unit until the end of the game. While attached, this unit cannot be targeted by friendly or enemy orders or tactics cards. So, on one hand, it looks really good. If you're killed in melee, you stay alive. There's no morale test. You just stay alive. It's not like to the last. There's no condition on it, really, except the fact that you have to be killed in melee. Now, believe it or not, that is a real condition. I find that the game is moving more and more towards ranged combat, so I feel like people are taking double archers quite often. So you could die to shooting. You could die to a panic test, potentially. So it's less versatile than other cards like What Does Dead May Never Die, or just To the Last from the Kingsmen in general. So there is that. The not being targeted by enemies' orders or tactics cards or friendly is also a big deal. It means that you can't use Sentinel, for example, that Barrack has himself. So the problem, of course, with this card is it only works if you die. So again, in the context of, do I keep this in my hand after round 1? The answer is probably not. The action is normally not that hot and heavy round 2, so you're probably going to discard this because you want to dig for a better card. I mean, this card could be clutch, of course, right? When it's round 3, round 4, and you die and you stay alive, that's a really, really big deal, especially in Kingsmen, who have To the Last as well. But in your opening hand, I think it's too weak to hold on to. You'd want other stuff instead. So I'm going to put it down at discard. And lastly, we've got Lightbringer. So when a friendly combat unit completes a melee attack, target 1 enemy unit in short range of the attacker. It suffers 1 panic test with a -1 to their roll for each of their destroyed ranks. So if they've already been damaged, it's an extra modifier. If it's a Barracks unit, they also become panicked. So the question is, do I think in round 2 I'll be completing melee attacks? And my honest answer is no. Probably not. Like, you could be, but again, my experience is round 1, things are just kind of pushing forward. Round 2, you're being a little more careful with your positioning, looking at getting on objectives perhaps, but you do it at the end of the round. You almost never fight. In some scenarios, maybe you fight if you start really close. We talked about this last episode, where if you start, with honed and ready, or not honed and ready, the table quarter one. Here we stand, or maybe Banners and Butchery. Maybe you get in combat right away, but in most of the scenarios, generally, unless your opponent plays very aggressive with Targaryens or something, you do not fight too early into the game. Generally, end of 2 into round 3. So I'm going to say this card is not good to keep in your hand, but it's better than 6 times too many, because you might get an attack off, but you're really unlikely to die. So I'm going to put it at discard, but ahead of 6 times too many. All right. So, yeah, I would not keep these cards past round 1. But, yeah, this is definitely worse because you have to die to use it. It's not likely to happen that early in the game. But Assault Orders is a pretty money card, in my opinion. All right, next we've got Lady Caitlin. So let's take a look at Lady Caitlin. Lady Stoneheart. I know her name is actually Lady Stoneheart because Caitlin Stark is a completely different persona. But to me, I don't know, I feel bad for her and I cannot stop calling her Lady Caitlin. Anyway, her first card is Lash Out. After an enemy completes a melee attack, if the defender was not destroyed, the attacker suffers 2 wounds for each of the defender's destroyed ranks. If the defender is Caitlin's unit, the attacker becomes panicked. I think this is a good card. I have to say, my gut says you're probably not going to keep it because, again, you're not fighting. So I feel like it should go in the discard pile. The only reason why I'm not is because you can actually kind of bait your opponent by pushing forward your flimsy peasants and hoping that they lose, a rank or 2 to deal 2 to 4 wounds back to your opponent. So I feel like this has more use than Lightbringer. For that reason, people tend to want to pick on your peasants because they die easy. It's also a risky play. to let your peasants get exposed, because the reason why you take peasants really is to have activation advantage, and you want to throw that away. So I feel like this card, what I plan on using it, again, it depends. Like this card is either ahead of Lightbringer, and you discard it still, or it's you maybe keep it because you're setting a trap, but it'll go way at the end, as in like you probably won't keep, but you might if you have peasants, if you plan on using it as a trap. So for now, because it's kind of like I don't expect to fight at the end of round one, or I don't expect to fight near the beginning of round two, I'm going to put it at discard. But it's definitely more usable than these because you can make a plan for it. Way easier, I think, than the other two cards. Next, we got Price of Failure. When a friendly unit is performing a melee attack before rolling attack dice, all the dice hit. Oh, this is Price of Failure. Same Price of Failure as Gregor has. After attack is completed, if the defender is not destroyed, the attacker becomes panicked and vulnerable. So if you don't destroy your target, you get punished for doing so. This card is amazing, I gotta say. Even though I have this, what's the word? Like there's conditions for a card to be good. This card is so good it transcends like the conditions that normally keep it down, which is you have to be fighting, right? But why I love this card is that it overcomes very common barriers in the game. So for example, weaken is a very powerful tool. So this just overcomes weaken. You can let yourself get weakened and you don't care because you know you're going to auto hit. If you go over a corpse pile or a bog and it's what's the word, hindering? Yes, hindering's the keyword, I think. You don't care, you just auto hit, right? So that is very, very strong. And of course, if you have crit blow, as men at arms do, as kingsmen might, you can still roll the dice to see if you get crits or not. So this card is so good that I think it's worth keeping. Now, is it a maybe keep? I think it's a maybe keep. It depends on whether or not you have units that can position themselves. It is really good. I'm tempted to put it up here behind Assault Orders. Like it's on that level, I'd say. But it might be either behind here or at the top, I think, of maybe keep after round one. So I'm going to say put it here for now. My heart of hearts knows you're probably not going to use it round two, which is why I don't want to keep it. And it's not as powerful as Assault Orders, which could be a charge. So I'm going to put it here for now, but it is very, very strong. And lastly, we've got Vengeance and Blood, which is after an enemy completes a melee attack, if it destroyed a friendly rank, target one friendly combat unit that was not the defender. They may perform one maneuver or march action. If it targets Caitlyn's unit, they may perform one charge or attack instead. This card is very similar to Fury for the Fallen from Eddard Stark, but it's not quite as good. I think Fury for the Fallen only will work if they get attacked in melee, whereas this card, they have to destroy a rank as well. Now that happens all the time, especially if you've got peasants, but just to note, it's not quite as good as Fury for the Fallen. For Caitlyn's unit, it's incredibly powerful. To get a charge out of it is really, really, really strong, which is, in my opinion, why you need to put her in a unit that actually slaps, right? So you want to put her into an actual hard-hitting unit. I put her in Halberdiers. That could be a mistake. Halberdiers, while they have Sundering, only hit on 4s. So you could argue that the Men-at-Arms could be a better choice. I like the Halberdiers only because I feel like they're going to use her commander ability, Heroic Visage, with Intimidating Presence a bit better. But either way, I think the potential for an action out of a card is really strong, and it's going to go right up here and keep past round one. Is it better or worse than Assault Orders? That's hard to say. Assault Orders depends on having a tactics spot open, whereas Vengeance and Blood depends on getting attacked, right? I feel like this is, it's hard to say. If I could make them equally good, I would do that. I think they're equally good. So we'll leave that for Caitlyn. Looks like she's got a stronger, by my criteria, a stronger card package than Barrick does. But don't forget, Barrick has other abilities. Sentinel, for example, is very, very strong. I think her abilities are very strong too, but it's not to say that she's better than Barrick strictly. I just think her cards are better. And of course, she has the other effect of giving you army-changing abilities against Lannisters, which is pretty cool. Lastly, we got Thoros of Mir. So let's check out Thoros. So I have to remember what Thoros does. He gives his own unit +2 to his morale rolls, gets a faith token. If they pass morale, they gain faith. Faith can be expended to gain Sundering and Vicious. Or when an enemy in long range fails a panic test, You can target a friendly, and then they heal. So just to understand the context for me, I kind of forgot what he did, to be honest with you. I know that for the most part, you take Barrack for the Sentinel, and you take Lady Caitlyn for the Heroic Visage and Intimidating Presence. So here we have Thoros. He's got Fiery Charge as his first card. When friendly unit performs a charge action before resolving that action, they auto roll a 6, and enemies become panicked. After the attack's completed, you become vulnerable unless it's Thoros' unit. I think this card is very strong because it's a movement-based card, and no matter what anyone says, movement wins games. So to say I can always guarantee a 6 and pull off a long bomb charge is really, 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 really strong. Again, are you charging round 2? You might with this card. You might. A cav unit might charge. So I'm going to put it actually way up here. But I do think it's worse than these other two cards because it's not a free action. It just enhances one action to the best possible result, which is getting a charge out. So that's Fiery Charge. And then we have Loved by the Small Folk. When an enemy is performing a melee attack before rolling attack dice, the enemy performs one morale test. On a failure, they become vulnerable and weakened. If they're in short range of Thoros, they suffer -2 to the roll. This card, I think, in your opening hand is not good. It relies on your opponent charging you and performing a melee attack on you. It's also just not a very strong card, in my opinion. They have to perform morale tests. If they fail, those tokens are good tokens to have. They become vulnerable, weakened. Likely to be within short range is actually not too shabby. So they probably are testing at -2, but they might just pass. You know what I mean? So the card might do nothing. So if you keep it, it's clogging your hand, and the card might do nothing itself. So I think in your opening hand, it is not good. I think this card is actually just generally not good. And I would put it way at the end here after these cards for sure. So worst card is Loved by the Small Folk. And then lastly, we've got The Last Kiss. When a friendly attachment would be destroyed, instead of being destroyed, place that attachment in a combat unit of the same type, ignoring the usual attachment restrictions, or you can cycle it as a cycle. That is an interesting case because I would argue you don't want to keep it in your starting hand past round 1 because you're not likely to lose attachment, just like 6 times too many. You're not likely to die and lose an attachment, but you'll never get this card, in my opinion, because if you draw in your opening hand, you'll just use it to cycle. So it's a good card in that sense to have in your opening hand because you'll always use it to cycle at the very minimum. So I'm going to put it doesn't really belong here. This is not the right spot for it. It's not it's a keep. It's a special exception where it's a good card to see in your opening hand because you'll always use it to cycle. You will almost never keep it to use round 2. So again, looking at that, it looks like, interestingly, I never did an analysis like this before. Lady Caitlyn's cards, to me, are a little bit stronger. Thoros' cards, it's hard to say. He's got one good card, one kind of terrible card, and one card that has some utility if a unit dies. I don't like how it seems like two cards here require you to die to have any value. Not super in love with that. Okay, so I will keep it there, and then we'll see how games go. If I change my opinion, or certain cards may be actually way more valuable than I thought they were. But we'll leave with that for now, folks. Hopefully you enjoyed that little tier list video on the Brotherhood Without Banners commander cards, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye.